We just need to approve our minutes and a little bit of business, and then we'll turn it over to you, okay? Is that all right? All right, it's called to order at 11:01. Is there anybody who would like to do public speak online?
No hands raised.
Nobody in the room? All right. Shall we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'd make a motion that the minutes from January 15th be approved.
Yes. Is there a second? Any changes?
No.
Barbara, thank you again for doing a wonderful job. When we have somebody online, we have to do a roll call vote. So, Susan Chandler, I vote yay.
Richard White, I vote yes.
Fran Kelly, yay.
Barb Hartford, yes.
Okay, it is passed unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, so our agenda today is to finish up reviewing our applications, and we are very happy to have Jennifer and Irene from the Outer Cape Health, is that right? And who will talk to us about that application as well as the Navigator program. And Fran Kelly has been our kind of liaison and leader in getting this going, so I will turn it over to you for anything you want to say.
Well, I would just say that I know Jennifer from the Navigator program when I was the chair of the Safer Communities Task Force in Orleans. And, you know, I as well as the members of that committee were very impressed and committed to the work that Jennifer was doing at that time. And Chief McDonald certainly was a powerful advocate. At one point I stopped in to look for Jennifer, and to my chagrin and surprise, I was told that the Navigator program no longer existed, that it was not funded, which I took back to people with great concern, because I thought as a triage kind of program, as well as a vital component of a mental health, behavioral health type of endeavor in this community, that it was very much needed. And so we as a committee voted to revitalize the funding for Navigator. And at this point, I think, you know, my interest, our interest as a committee was in getting an update about what you guys are doing. I know you're back in town, so to speak.
Yes, yeah, starting July 1st. We were, restarted sitting hours, along with the parallel program with recovery coaches. And but that is separately funded from the conversation we're having today.
Right.
The only place that really kind of comes into play is when we talk about referral numbers. Previously, when we were having sitting hours or involved with the town, as we were, all referrals funneled through me. So I had, the numbers appeared larger or somewhat skewed, as they will appear if we're looking at the numbers between July 1st and, Friday is when I pulled the data, so Friday. Because we had all behavioral health referrals came to me, and all substance use referrals go to the recovery coaches. So not that there was a dip in referrals, just a different way they were disseminated, if that makes sense.
I guess I wanted to clarify, because on the
Yes.
application, it looks like there's not a distinction between what the Navigator program is doing and what all of Orleans Health is, Outer Cape Health is doing.
Right, so that program is funded through the opioid remediation money, so it's different. It's still part of Outer Cape, we work together collaboratively, but I don't take their referrals for them and then do their administrative work, if that makes sense. Because that's a different department.
Is there a way of knowing what the Navigator program has served?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad you asked. But wait, there's more.
Just to clarify, did you suggest there was some double counting, or what appeared to be double counting?
No, when we first started here, all of the referrals, so it was singular, I did all of the referrals, they were all through me. So if they had any sort of components to substance use disorder or whatnot, at that time, the recovery coach program was not in this area. It wasn't something that had sort of made it yet to town, if you will. after the fact, once we started working in town, that's when that remediation money, opioid remediation money came into play, and there was some talks, some votes and whatnot, and then that money was used to fund that sister program, if you will. So once we restarted in July, since we now had 2 different services, sort of, they would take all of the substance use disorder referrals. Does that make sense?
Not quite. So what happens to the client? The client, how did they?
So if the client was referred to me by the police department, right?
Yeah.
Or the fire department or the school, and the principal referral reason was for substance use disorder, that referral went to the recovery department, the recovery coach, because that was more appropriate. If this person is struggling with maybe recovery, or maybe there's some court involvement because of that substance use disorder, then it just makes more sense if that is that driver of that referral for them to go to the recovery department. Everything else goes to me, whether it be behavioral health, and what I'm sure you hear a lot about, is the social determinants of health, which is what we look at in my department, is how it overall is impacting people's wellness.
And if it's co-diagnosis?
Still me, but we just work as a team. But it only gets counted once. You can't have like 2 people for the price of 1.
You actually may have just answered what I was going to call a follow-up question. I mean, I lived in the behavioral health world for a bit, and we focused very much on dual diagnosis.
Yes, yeah.
So.
Yes, which is very common. So in full disclosure, I wasn't really 100% clear on what we were going to be covering today, so I went back and watched the videos of the previous town meetings. I like to watch those, so I also am an Orleans resident, just as another
Town
disclosure.
meetings or our committee meetings?
Your committee meetings, just so I was understanding what to prepare for today, because I just said, somebody said, can you be here? I said, sure. I didn't want to come empty-handed. That would be rude. So what I did prepare is some data, and I was looking at the questions, because I think if I really could sit down and sort of say to myself, what are the main questions that the committee has? And what I was hearing a lot of is, like, what are those outcomes? Like, what is the money being spent on? Where is the navigator, and what's going on, right? So I did, in this information packet, I did spend a little more time explaining what our program is all about, because I didn't want to assume, as much as I believe it's a very important program, I didn't want to assume that everybody in the world knows what it is. And I also don't want to assume that everybody understands fully how important health-related social needs or social determinants of health, like how important that is and how it affects somebody's overall wellness. The Navigator program, yes, go ahead.
1 minute. Well, Barb is a committee member, and
Yes.
she's online. Is this online? Could you mail this to her?
I certainly can. I can email this to you.
Okay. Now?
I certainly can. What is her email address?
Barb, can you hear us? You're on mute. I'm trying to see if I can get you a
Now
copy
I can hear
of
you.
this. Okay,
I can hear you, but now you can hear me.
okay. Oh, I suppose Alex too, but you've probably seen this, have you?
No, I just made this over the weekend.
Oh, okay.
It was an attempt to sort of address more specifically what I was hearing as
Okay.
the questions and concerns.
All right, so maybe we should just, I know we sort of feel like we're attacking you, but we're very
Oh, no.
supportive here. And
That's
Fran
okay.
is a huge advocate and got us very interested in this whole thing. And so we would like to learn, so maybe we should just see if you can answer the questions.
Yeah, I would second that remark. We don't want people appearing before us to feel interrogated, but actually we do kind of interrogate you.
We're curious.
So, but it's all to the good to make sure
get
that
it,
we
it's okay.
understand.
Yeah, no, that's okay. This
We
is-
like good questions.
Yeah.
And
This is
Well,
sort of a
that's
part
helpful
for
to
us.
it also helps us hone what we
Right.
do.
Right.
It
Okay.
informs, and we appreciate it, so no
You're
worries.
welcome.
Okay.
We
Here's
have
our
another
last
colleague
member
who
of the
needed.
Oh, terrific.
One more. This is Irene and Jennifer from Miami. And then-
So I did expand like one area, and I thought this might help in answering some questions more surrounding about like, what does that referral process look like? Because I heard variations of that question asked multiple times throughout the years, or year of meetings. How does that look? And I think what's most important to know is, like, I'd like to answer, almost all of the referrals that I get from anyone in town, whether it be the police, the fire, whoever, schools, does not happen when I'm at the police station. Like, they email me in the middle of the night, on Saturday night, I see it on Sunday morning, they call me. If I'm available, like oftentimes probation or the court will call me and say, are you in town, are you close by, can you just stop by right now? That is how it works. It's pretty informal because I'm usually on the road, going to people's houses, looking for people, going to other, buildings or other collaborative community partners, or maybe I'm coming to the town hall. But there's sort of like 3 phases of that Navigator process. So 9 times out of 10, when somebody's referred to the Navigator program, it is not because things are going well for them. Like, something is happening, some sort of crisis or some sort of tipping point where now that person is in a place where they have to be vulnerable and ask for help. We've gotten to this place. Maybe it is, I have gotten arrested and an OUI and I've lost my job because of substance use disorder, because I am struggling with depression and there's not enough, I don't have money or food and my bills have been, whatever that looks like for that person. So we come in and I would work with that person to address the immediate crisis. Like, how are we going to stabilize you for right now? But that's not really helpful for that person. Like, I could give you something to eat for today, but what does that do for you tomorrow? So then I would then work with them around stabilization, whether it be connecting them with recovery-based services that we offer. Maybe it's, they're going to do our outpatient program for substance use. Maybe they are going to do some job training, but whatever that looks like, it is a patient-centered, goal-oriented, multi-step process. It is not something that I just like swoop in. Some people I've been working with for 4 or more years. Some people I've actually been working with for even longer than I've been at Outer Cape, because they're patients that floated back from my previous healthcare agency, and are now patients at Outer Cape. And that's the best part about the Navigator program. So it is funded by multiple funding streams, but it is grant funded. So you do not need to be a patient of Outer Cape. Is not something I bill for. You can, it doesn't really matter at all, race, immigration status, what that looks like. In this particular, if we're talking about this context, it can be anyone living in Orleans, right? And then I'm working with those folks on sustainability, because at the end of the day, my goal is that person is not going to need me anymore. My goal is that person is empowered, is in like a really good space. They're able to, maybe they've gotten some job training, they got a better career path, substance uses, that work is going well for them. Maybe we've worked with DCF and like maybe the kids were reunified, whatever that looks like for the person. And it takes whatever it takes. We don't have to put a cap on it and say, I'm sorry, I can only be here for 3 visits. And at the end of the day, hopefully they stop calling me. And then, that means they're in a really good place.
So you're actually handling this case?
Yes.
At this point. And I assume you're going to talk to us about a handoff farther down the road on this. Or is it just, how many cases are you dealing with?
How many cases am I dealing with? Overall, we get thousands of referrals, but
Right.
For the town of Orleans, between July 1st and Friday, we had 40 that were specific, like for me, not the recovery side. So, which is a different funding stream.
Strikes me as a lot to handle. Do you actually sleep?
Yes, I do. Now, not all of those people, if we look at some of the data, is successful connection. For
Okay.
instance, one of the referrals, well, more than one, but one that was very recent was a referral. The police had an interaction with someone who was sleeping in their car, but they were unable to get a phone number. They just had noted that this particular person was hanging out by the beach parking lot. So I drove down to the beach parking lot and drove around looking for the description of the car with the particular license plate. I was unable to connect with that person. So not every single referral is going to, and not every single person that I do get in touch with says yes. Like sometimes people just say no thanks. So I pulled the data from our program, the Navigator program began April 1st, 2016. It started off in Provincetown. It didn't come this way until more like 2017. So I wanted to make sure I was kind of keeping it accurate. Since that time, we've received 455 referrals involving Orleans residents. But well before, we've been doing this work in this town well before this even came to fruition with us sitting at the police station. Of those 455 referrals, 285 resulted in successful engagement and support as defined by active coordination, follow-up, or service connections. Because then we had to also, we can't say, did it work out, did it not, because we have to sort of name that, right? So I am naming that as they connected with me, we followed up some way, I provided them, whether it was some one-on-one work or connecting them to our other community partners like Lower Cape Outreach, homeless prevention, whatever that looks like, because it's not a one-man show, this is very much a team effort. I myself manage a large team, so if we also have to pull in language, like we have language access, so there's 5 languages now spoken on my team. So if I don't speak the language, I can certainly call someone that can.
So is it correct to say that you're really kind of an outreach, referral, case manager person?
Yes, I manage our entire department, yes.
Okay. And one of the things that we had, that we thought was terrific, is that a family member could call and say, my 35-year-old bipolar son is causing problems. And then do you do that kind of outreach as well as direct?
Yes, I feel like you've been reading my emails. Yes, I do.
I used to be a social worker, we sort of know the behavior.
Yeah, okay, it's like, get out of there. No, yes, 100%. It can come from anywhere. It really can. We try to make it as low barrier as possible. There's no official form that needs to be filled out. It's just really, I always say like at least a phone number is helpful, but if not, a description, maybe a place where that person usually hangs out. And again, if in that instance is trying to connect, especially this time of year, trying to get them in off the streets.
I guess just one other thing, but go ahead.
No, go ahead.
One other thing that we had, that we learned from Fran, we have 2 Frans, is that we were hoping that these were going to be referrals from emergency rooms and that you wouldn't, that the police wouldn't be driving somebody up to sit in an emergency room if there was such a place to be even. And that these could be referrals to the community side of the house if there was availability. Has that happened?
Yeah, I get tons of referrals from the social workers in the emergency room.
Do we want them before they get to the emergency room?
Yeah, I was just about to launch into that. I mean, like, ultimately, we try to get there before that crisis. We definitely want, if it does get to the crisis point, and I know Bree uses bookends. I like to say jelly sandwich, but she uses bookend, which sounds nicer. Mine sounds a little squishy and sticky, but yes, we do like to get there before and after, because we see that all the time. There's just limited resources. So folks, and I like to work particularly, a lot of my effort and energy is our school-based service site and our school-based services. And so I think it's crucial and it's vital, as in, we will send people, especially with mental health issues, to the emergency room, and it's not appropriate, there's not enough, right? And so, but there's only so much we have, we're in a resource desert here on the Cape. So then, whereas before, they were discharged with a phone number, maybe an appointment set up for them, maybe, some sort of connection, and now they're just discharged. And so that is where we really try to make sure that we are there. And we're saying like, hey, if you don't have a PCP, then I will set you up with ours, and then we will set you up in our behavioral health department, and we will make sure that you get those services that you need. And we work with the families to get them the support that they need as well.
Terrific. Fran had another question first.
No, go ahead, Fran, and then I'll follow up.
Do you have, when you're contacted, are there kind of levels of criticality that are conveyed to you as to the particular case at that moment? Because it could be, like you say, at night or whatever.
Yeah. This comes up internally, because I'm like, not every referral can be marked urgent, but they are. But unfortunately, they are pretty much all urgent. It goes in line of order of received, really. We make it a point to get in touch with everybody within 24 hours to 48 hours of receiving that referral. And that doesn't start with like business hours. That starts with if I'm getting an email from the police department on a Saturday night, then I'm gonna make sure to, I at least wanna make a connection with that person. I'm not saying every single time within 24 hours, I'm swooping in like a superhero, but I am calling that person to say, hey, what does Monday look like for you? Can I get out there Monday? Or, again, I have a large team, so depending on their location, maybe they ran into the Orleans police, but they really are an Eastham resident, in which case I would assign them to one of my Eastham navigator to work with, to make sure that somebody has eyes on the situation if you know, it's so important, especially, and I just want to circle back to sitting hours. Something that I was hearing a couple of times is, that so I don't leave the station, I very rarely will leave the station during sitting hours. The reason being is that every other day of the week, I'm all over the Cape. I could be in Bourne, I could be in Provincetown, I could be back and forth 3 times that day between the clinic sites. If you are our patient, I will go to wherever you are. If you're not our patient, we usually stay in our catchment area, which is Yarmouth to Provincetown, but I am all over the place. So if somebody is in that stage of change where they're ready to make a move, they're ready to do something, and they show up and I am not there, then that is not helpful. So usually 9 times out of 10, unless it is something urgent and a person I'm already working with and the police are like, can you just come with me out to this, then I'll go with them. Again, if it's somebody, I try to stay where that person can be, because where I might not get a ton of foot traffic, the foot traffic that we do get is vital. So I don't want to ever not be there when someone comes.
I think you are a superhero. I think this
No, I don't-
fantastic. What we were hearing before, I
All
think
the
this
way
sounds
here,
fantastic. Richard?
So just kind of 3 points, I think
Yes.
they're interconnected. Do you ever go out with the police?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, it depends on what it is. I honestly, I try not to take them with me, because sometimes they're a little counterproductive. Not anything against them, they're lovely
No,
people.
I'm-
Our department is wonderful, but I often find even in plain clothes that they still stand like a police officer. And still, so people, it's just, that is, they're just, like, I have heard millions of times, oh, maybe we should come because that person tends to get dysregulated very easily or gets agitated.
Yeah.
Not with me, they don't. Like, most outreach workers will tell you, a blue badge that signifies healthcare worker, that lady probably has a snack for me, she's probably got a gift card of some sort, like, she's gonna be my buddy, she's gonna be my friend. So I find it a little more productive for me to go out solo. Again, I have lived and worked in this town for over 30 years. If anyone does the math, I'm gonna be really upset, so don't do it. But I have, these are my people. This is my backyard. I live right down the street, you know, these are my family members, my children's parents, you know, like their friends' parents and people that I have a life with. So I take it very seriously. I give it, you know, 110% all the time, because then if I drop the ball, they're gonna see me at Shaw's, they're gonna see me at CVS, you know, so like I need to make sure that I'm taking care of them, because I love this town and this is our home, you know, we own a home here and we lived here for a really long time.
Will you transport?
Will I, no, we do not, that's an insurance thing. I would drive, I've been begging for a bus and maybe a therapy dog, but that's above me, so.
And then just a final point.
But I will meet them at the emergency room.
Okay. So you mentioned somebody being discharged from the hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and then you end up picking them up. Is that what you're describing? Because it seems to me the work of a hospital social worker is to make sure in a well-run hospital program that they are connected with community resources. Apart from just you, but it sounds like the hospital social worker is handing over to you
Yes.
exclusively. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
so my job, I manage our program, the entire department, so my job would be to receive those referrals and then I process them accordingly. So if it is someone in the town of Orleans, then they're mine, but if it's someone in Provincetown or Truro or Wellfleet, then I'm gonna assign it to the navigator that covers that territory. My entire team is funded through multiple funding streams as well, so if it's language-based, it might go to somebody else. Like, it really depends on, I try to look at like the overall person too, and if I can, if it's if the funding allows for it, because I might not be everybody's cup of tea. So, you know, like,
How
hard
could
to
that be?
believe, right? But maybe I'm not, and that's okay, because my job is to at least connect the person to appropriate fundings or appropriate service and support that they do relate to and that they do want to be part of.
Do you find that some of the people that are referred to you, or situations, let's call it, that occur, take people to a, say, the hospital in Hyannis, because that's where there's a round-the-clock emergency room type of thing, and a sort of broad base. When in fact, the people, if there was something closer, you'd say, wow, isn't that great, I can go 5 miles instead of 30, whatever. And then that in turn begs the question about, well, is there a place for call it a urgent care type of facility that could be a little more broader based out here, in the outer Cape?
I'll take that one.
That's 24 hours, that's 24 hours.
Our issue right now for any kind of walk-in service, and that's how we're referring to it as, is that we cannot find enough providers physically here in order to be able to serve the community. We have an 800-person wait list on a PCP. And that is why we're very heavily leaning into telehealth and telemedicine. We want to create access, and we want to create access forever, right? So we need some sustainability. In order to do that, we need to have PCPs who are licensed in Massachusetts, who may not be able to live on Cape Cod, but who can take a call from Boston or can take a call from Massachusetts. That's going to create bandwidth. And we know that that's going to create bandwidth because our CEO did this already in the North Shore, where they also had a very large wait list. And now they have too much capacity, right? So now they could be marketing forever, and they still, in their catchment area, there's just not enough patients, believe it or not. So it's we know that this will work to create access. It's not going to replace the live PCP, but it is going to create opportunity. So for example, I'm a woman, I work a lot. I don't want to take 2 hours out of my day to go, 2-3 hours to go and see a doctor. Telehealth is perfectly fine for me. And there's going to be a large cohort of patients who are going to love it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's going to create bandwidth, that's going to create walk-in bandwidth. But we don't have that right now. This next year, that's where we're going to be pushing.
So, because that, if you have a fever or a headache or something or other, I think telemedicine sounds fantastic. I'm not so sure it's appropriate for a lot of behavioral health challenges.
It's going to
But you're
create
gonna open up
bandwidth,
the
right,
space for
to
that.
actually to be able to
I see.
triage, right? So that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
So, if I could just build on that, I really save the emergency room for our absolute last resort. Our hospital, this is nothing against Cape, I used to work for Cape Cod Healthcare, now I work for a different agency, I work for Outer Cape, is just not appropriate for mental health crises. It really isn't. And I will say hats off to Bay Cove, they really do the best that they can. I mean, I've had conversations with Mass Health as an entity over what does that look like for our behavioral health roadmap as far as only having our main site in Hyannis and that access for our Outer Cape residents. It's like, unless they are going to provide us with teleportation, doesn't make any sense. We can't get to, so what can we do is work as collaboratively as possible, because most times when people are expressing suicidal ideation, if they are talking to you about it but they're talking about it, we can sort of de-escalate
Yes.
while we wait
Yes.
for Bay Cove. And maybe it doesn't even end up as we need to be sectioned or in the emergency room. It's the times where they don't talk to you about it.
Yes.
But if they're talking to you about it and you have the tools in your toolbox to have those conversations, I might not get to a place. More times often than not, I don't get to a place where we need to escalate it to that. I get to a place where we start talking about, okay, so I validate your feelings, we now talk about what that looks like for you and why you're feeling that way, and then together we are gonna work towards getting those crucial appointments, because my job is not, again, fixing the fire right today, that's not gonna help that person. We need to address it, but in sustainability, yeah, and make those connections.
Well, it would seem to me that the telehealth concept would still apply for the immediacy of your need. That if you could, now maybe I'm fantasizing, but if you could connect a healthcare professional who specializes in psychological issues, problems, behavioral issues, by video along with you physically.
Yes.
Particularly if you were able to, I'm guessing, size that video so that person looks like a real person, not a disembodied entity, and having the two work together. It would seem to me that you could do this, and I'll just
Yes.
follow up by another question. I don't understand why that healthcare facility that was built in Orleans is shut for a large part of the year, when in fact Cape Cod Health or somebody could lease a portion of it to provide these type of services year-round. Why isn't that even discussed? I can't believe it.
You can answer that rather than on the staff.
It's not our building.
It's not our building.
Yeah,
I know it's not your building, but why aren't, they're not even thinking about it. Somebody's done some sort of
Well, I think it's
financial projection that says we
honestly, when they
close.
built that, I agree. However, I'm not their financial planner. What I do agree,
Somebody needs to open the conversation.
No,
But still, they're having the same problem that we have. And we have Northeast here, that Northeast Behavioral Health, fantastic organization, or they have a really long-winded title now, Northeast Behavioral Health and Cape Behavioral Health / whatever. Great group of people, right off Nantucket.
Right.
Love that they're here. They offer all kinds of fun services for behavioral health that we're not even close to doing or have that capacity to do. They do not have therapists right now, unfortunately, because they have the same problem that we do, is that we can attract providers, but when the providers get here, and it's the cost of living, it's the no selection of housing, it's the where are my kids gonna go to school, or what are we gonna do, and that's where we end up losing.
But let me jump in on the psychiatry component of things, because psychiatry is an area where we started telehealth, and it's working beautifully so long as we have a PCP. It's a little different model, right? So what happens is, Romy Nemi, our psychiatrist, we have a psychiatrist who is 100% telemedicine. If somebody has a PCP with us, they can usually get a referral to her within a week, and sometimes even within a day. It is the example of how it's working beautifully. All telehealth team-based, right? There's a beautiful team around it. Where we don't have the bandwidth is on the PCP side. But you're absolutely right. Telehealth will create that opportunity. I can imagine the navigators being extraordinarily helpful in going into the community, helping people to get onto telehealth eventually.
Oh, we do that all the time. That's actually
Informally,
that's
right?
but no. That's one of the. I mean, like when it's a patient of ours, a couple weeks ago, that was a really good example. Patient needs, like, for her particular insurance, for any Medicare, you need a face-to-face or forward-facing appointment in order for your provider to order home-based physical therapy. It's a silly thing that you're injured and you're elderly and you now need to somehow get up and get to, it's silly, but with the invention of telehealth, we can make it happen. However, the expectation that a 99-year-old person can manage to just hop on to telehealth is unrealistic. So I got in the car and I drove to Yarmouth and I would use my equipment and there we go. Now we're able, some problems are simple for me to solve. I'm like, I can solve that, I just gotta drive over there. Other problems can be a little bit more challenging. We also have to recognize we are not the end all for every single, like Outer Cape as an entity, for every single behavioral health situation. If people already have a PCP, I have a really hard time convincing them. Our services are integrated, so you have to be a patient to get the majority of our services, but it's like trying to pry candy from a child. And like some people don't want to. They have been going to the same provider. Maybe their parents went to that provider and their parents' parents. I worked for a healthcare organization. That was exactly it. I used to work with Dr. Reed, and he has great-grandchildren, grandchildren, the children, you know, like generations of people have been seeing him, and like, I would need a crowbar and like $1 million to get them away from him. And that's fine. So it is also my job to make sure I'm collaborating and partnering with the other available options in town. Because again, you know, it's not a one-size-fits-all for people. It has to be what's work best for them.
It's sounding to me as if this very excellent method that you guys are engaged in here, this kind of gatekeeper function that you're providing is tremendously beneficial, but you're still faced with the resource issues that are in short supply. And it makes me wonder, do we qualify either as Barnstable County or even the Outer Cape as a medically underserved community?
We do.
From a federal standpoint?
We do. That's why we're a federally qualified health
So
center.
doesn't that open the doors for certain financial tools to attract
It did, but they're
professionals?
shrinking. So I'll be honest with you. You've read the news. They're shrinking. The federal funds that are available are getting in shorter and shorter supply. We're being asked to do more with a great deal less. So just so you're aware, in the United States, prior to this administration, primary care got 8 cents on the dollar. That compares to the Netherlands, which gets 25 cents on the dollar. Half their medical population are PCPs, our primary care physicians, and their life expectancy is 4 to 8 times greater than us in the United States. We are very expensive because we're not really focused on prevention, right? That pool for prevention is shrinking, right? We're going to see less reimbursement from Medicare, Medicaid. The 340B program is changing to a rebate program. Estimates are we'll lose $1.2 million this year, right? So we're being asked to do more with less.
Well, I'm specifically wondering about the issues of medical professionals. I believe there were or are certain features of this designation that can cancel out a certain amount of student debt, can
That's
also
changing
provide-
too, right?
Well, are they literally saying that they will not do it? Or, I mean, is
Well,
there
there's
codified
certain,
change that you can
there's
speak to?
certain professions that are no longer considered professions in medicine.
And nursing.
And nursing is a
nursing.
great example of
Nursing.
that. So, you know, just the reality is, it is getting harder and harder to receive funds. Grants are shrinking. You probably read, we can no longer provide gender-affirming care to individuals under the age of 17 in order to keep our federal grants and our federal money, and quite frankly, the federal protections for malpractice that come with being a federally qualified health center. Those are some of the advantages we have. You know, the administration can turn around tomorrow and say, you can't vaccinate children with measles, and we would have to abide by that, because if we were to lose 50% of our funding, overnight we'd need to close our doors. But that's the reality of what we're facing.
Okay, Fran, can we get this Fran to ask some questions?
No, I
Yeah.
think Irene answered a question I had, but I would like to go back to something that Jennifer mentioned about Bay Cove. They've expanded their services considerably. Do they have a contract for emergency services?
Yeah, they are our contract, they have the contract, so, and they have been for many years, with the state of Massachusetts. So they are our designated, if you look at the behavioral health roadmap, they are the designated emergency services or urgent care walk-in, them and Children and Family Services, not as in DCF, as in Children and Family Services, little comma, Inc. So, just an unfortunate name, it's just too close. Excellent organization.
Is there residential support there, or is it crisis
It's,
intervention?
no,
in
it's
Bayco?
essentially it's the sort of the same thing as like a Navigator does. They are licensed and trained mental health professionals, but instead of doing, you know, other type of intervention, they would assess what that level of need is. If the patient needs to be sectioned or needs transport, then they have to go to the hospital to make sure that they are medically cleared, and then a bed search would ensue, and then they would be
And so
transferred
there's
there.
no sort of short-term crisis intervention,
But they could
2,
do like
3
a
days?
yeah,
Not
not like
hospital.
that. It would be more of like they could do the sort of like it's CBAC, community-based but, in which case, maybe for 5 to 7 days, social workers
The
is
stabilization.
working, yes, maybe coming over once a day and like talking with them and
And that's a
making sure.
physical place.
Yes, and making sure that they are connected to their regular psychiatrist, their PCP, like their healthcare team. So there are some in-betweens, but again, every program is good as the staff that it has, and if you can't attract staff because there's no housing, then.
Sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you.
No,
Go,
no,
Fran.
No, I think the Cape as an entity lacks community mental health programs and services and an adequate psychiatric component to the hospital. I mean, having experienced situations, particularly with adolescents or kids, where they needed to be in a facility for a short time or longer, it just wasn't possible here. I mean, they had to go off Cape, and they would, some places, for example, Hempstead, New Hampshire, for children. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but the question would be, what do you do when you guys have limited capacity in those cases. What do you do with a child or an adolescent or an adult that needs hospitalization and Cape Cod Hospital simply doesn't have the beds?
Well, they wouldn't, if they reach a sectionable level, they're not going to be released. I have sat with someone who sat in the emergency room for 8 days while an adolescent while waiting for a bed. So it is not, they have gotten much better, but it's not just here. The whole system is broken. And that person was eventually placed in a facility that was in Fort Devens, which is 3 hours and like 18 minutes from here because I drove up there. So it's not perfect, it is what we have, and that is what that looks like. That looks like the human connection is still there if they're working with Navigator Services, and as part of that sort of space that these types of grants or awards from town contracts, that allows us that room to do that, because other programs you wouldn't be able to do that. And so by having these services, we at least can still be that human contact for that person. And so it looks like I just sit there with them, and maybe we play tic-tac-toe, maybe we color and wait together, but I try to just try to make it as normal as it can be, because there is nothing worse than being an adolescent faced with a crisis with behavioral health, and you're in the emergency room and they're taking your shoelaces and there's some strange person staring you down. So in those moments, I just walk alongside them and try to make sure that I can make it as comfortable for them as possible.
Barb has mental health experience. Do you have any questions or anything you want to ask?
I did have two questions. One of them is, I was a little bit confused about whether or not people who come into the Navigator program, whether you require that they have a PCP with your organization or not. Because at first I thought I heard you say yes, and then you were talking about a private doctor. So do they have to have that connection in order to see you?
Nope, they do not.
The other question I had, and neither one of these have to do specifically with mental health, but in your application, when you were talking about the services that you're going to be providing to Orleans clients, you mentioned something about some of the awarded funds would also be set aside for client expenses. And I was just curious as to what kind of client expenses you pay. Is it just kind of open as to what the client's needs are, or do you have certain criteria? How does that work?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. I expanded on a case and included a little bit about what that spending looked like. So in this particular, and I will get this to you, in this particular instance, I was called in by the police department. The senior had had a minor motor vehicle accident. The car had been towed. However, I was able to partner with a different organization to get the towing and storage costs. Then I was able to go down to the garage and I paid their fee with that town funding. And then I was able to also use the town funding that we had, because when I started working with that particular person in their home, so I could help that person adjust to what it was gonna be like without a license, right? Because now we gotta figure out, how do you get your groceries, how do you get to the doctors? There was several safety concerns, so I was able to use that funding and tap into that in order to provide that particular person, I'm trying to keep PHI out, that particular person, with the items that they needed to be safe and stable in their home. Also for things like, the immediate urgent need was food and, the bills associated with the minor accident in town, which ended up being related to a medical thing. But being able to then meet with the police officer and that particular resident at the police station and then say, like, okay, but I talked, did a little education around why we should see your primary care provider. We need to figure out why you maybe lost consciousness while driving. I was able to just get in the car and drive over to that person's PCP office and say, can I get an appointment for like today? And work with, the COA on transportation and, but that funding that I was able to use from the month, this was from when we first started Sitting Hours, that's how it was spent, that's how we were giving it
You're not
back.
giving cash to clients.
No,
you're
no, no, no,
buying
no, no.
services that are
Right.
associated with their needs.
Yes, yeah. Yep, last week it was an Orleans resident who lost their health insurance and had a dental abscess that required medication, and they needed that medication, so I was able to buy their medication for them. So they were able to get the antibiotics that they needed. So it looks, because we are able to really tailor it to every single client or patient, it looks like a million different things for a million different people. It's never, one size fits all kind of thing. We try to make it accessible. That's how we spend it.
I mean, I appreciate all the time you're giving us. about-
Oh, if you don't stop me, I'll talk all day.
You've got clients to serve.
I
so
obviously
any-
love
any-
this,
any
love
kind of
who we
final
do.
No, I just
questions?
wanted, that's a compelling example.
Yes.
Of the complexities, the extent, and the expense involved in your work. Thank you for providing.
Yeah, I
Yes,
wanted to
this is
really
terrific.
give a better example of what that looks like for folks.
I have one final little question. One of the things that we had heard about when we first heard about the navigators, and Fran was doing some research on this, is that sort of an unintended consequence perhaps was that the police understood more about what your services are and what navigators could do and what the whole deal of behavioral health is. Have you had that kind of experience where you're seeing the police get what this is all about and what kind of service? They don't want to be social workers, I get that, the police didn't want to do that. But when they do that kind of, outreach into a family, are you seeing any sort of better connection of them understanding the behavioral health challenges of the town or the community?
I would, yeah, I mean, we're a small town. Like, we are a small town, so I would say more often than not, when I'm getting a referral, it's somebody I already have worked with in the past or have some sort of there's just no way that you live in a town this small and people aren't aware of the things that are going on with your neighbor. That's just par for the course. However, I will say our police department in particular does a fantastic job of really building community rapport. So yeah, there are plenty of times where they are the warm handoff, the connection, that really do understand what our needs are. It is painfully slow to I oftentimes feel like we are telling one person at a time. We can put it out there, we can put it on social media, you can put it on town websites, town meetings, but half of our residents are still unaware of what the needs truly look like. So it can be challenging, for sure.
One quick final question. When I looked over what you provided, Jennifer, I'm just curious, what percentage of your referrals are coming from Chief Deering and Chief McDonald? Off the top of your head, you don't roughly?
You mean that as Orleans or the
Yeah,
higher
Orleans.
From the chiefs themselves or from patrol? It depends. I get them from everybody at the police department, I would say.
Yeah, well, I mean, say I mean, the impetus for Navigator, as I understood it back a few years ago, was that, for example, Chief Deering would get calls, people would walk into the fire department and say, you know, I've got a 15-year-old, or I have a mother that's this, that, or the other thing, what do I do about it? And there was, at that point, you were stationed at the police department.
Right.
You were physically there.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, what the Navigator has done, at least as far as I understand it, it's really taken the weight off their shoulders in terms of knowing what to do with situations, everything from a, you know, physical need to behavioral health issues. Which I think the behavioral health issues were really the daunting for the police and fire department, as they should have been, because these people are not trained or experienced in
Yeah.
walking into a situation at 2 o'clock in the morning, that domestic violence, for example, and how to de-escalate that. I mean, I think they do a pretty good job as far as I can see, but I just wondered about, you know, is that the bulk of the referrals for Navigator from?
For the town, no, and I do, like, I broke it down a little bit, in one of my little, oh, maybe I didn't put that
Maybe I
in
didn't do
Instagram.
that.
Oh, it was, so if we look at just from July 1st to 1/25/26, because I couldn't keep adding to the data from today, you'll see that a good chunk of referrals are coming from from primary care physicians themselves. Like, these are things that folks are disclosing in an appointment to their trusted provider. There's some serious concerns at home. Police and probation made up a good chunk. So if we looked at the 40, overall 24 came internally, 11 came from police and probation, and 5 came from community partners such as Lower Cape Outreach, homeless prevention. Homeless prevention is probably our top referral source for like in-town referrals. So that is still a fairly good chunk if we want to just base it off of this like sort of 7-month glance. And we're talking about roughly, when I started pulling data, it was somewhere around 5,400 and something referrals. That's individual, unique referrals of like people over the last however many years. So a good chunk come from a decent amount. If we want to just even base it off of what a 7-month snapshot looks like, a very good portion comes from police and probation.
Do you have any questions for us?
I don't. I just am really excited about the work that's happening in this town as a resident. It's really refreshing and exciting to see. It feels like it's been sort of an uphill battle for the last 20 years, but we're coming to a place where people are talking about it, we're doing things about it, and it's just really nice to see.
Good.
Thank
Alex, do you have
you.
any questions?
No questions for me. I'm glad to hear this conversation, and I'm also excited about everything that's happening. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Bye.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
all the hard work you're doing.
Of
We always
course.
ask a final question about, we've changed our application form. Barb did a lot of work on making it easier. Was it easier
Thank
to
you.
fill out our application form?
It was. It was extremely streamlined, and we appreciate that because we're resource constrained also on the grant side of the house. So we appreciate everything that makes it easier for us.
Good, okay.
Where could I find, or Fran, could I just email you a copy of this and then you could forward it to Barb? Would that work? Okay, I'll do that, 'cause I have your email right there, so.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right,
All right, thank you very much for your time
Thanks very
and your
much.
fabulous work.
of course.
Very impressive. And this fabulous documentation. We love data, right?
We do,
We
yeah.
do.
Well,
We
yes.
love data.
Well, it comes along with funding streams is a whole lot of data collection.
Whole
Yeah.
lot. Nice to meet you all. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
All right. Any outstanding comments on either of these programs?
Thank you.
As far as the
Thanks.
resource issues about healthcare professionals, for example, I get the feeling, and I sit on this other committee, affordable housing, that we look at these issues as, this is the whole thing. We look at affordable, how much does it cost to create a housing unit? How much what's rent, what's median family income, and, all those sorts of things. When a consumer of this approaches it in a holistic way, what's it cost me to educate my child or drive around or find a place to live, or, for example, the town, the select board just voted for a child care stipend for the citizens of the people who live in Orleans.
Right.
Now, to me, that's part of the housing equation, because two people can work conceivably and safely care for their child now, or more, or certainly that need is supplemented. And so that's why I asked that question about medically underserved profession, and I don't know that they were really thinking along those lines.
Well, I thought their message was that those great programs that used to bring staff in aren't here anymore. The feds are
Well,
cutting
I
them all
don't know.
back. That's what
We
you're
don't-
saying.
Yeah, but she
Which
didn't
is
give
federally
any
qualified healthcare.
Yeah,
That's
but
what
she
you're
did give
talking about.
specifics about the issues of, for example, about eliminating student loans for doctors. Those laws are still on the books, because I've researched it. Those things, those are legislated.
But they have to be funded, and if they're not being funded.
They gotta be funded, because they're law.
Okay.
Now, there may be things where they've changed Medicaid for, you have to be, if you're.
And reimbursements of federally
single
qualified
and
healthcare.
you have to work.
Right.
But those are all issues that have been passed by Congress. What I'm getting at is that you take those types of things and slap them, put them together, you have a package which you could call affordable housing. It's not just building something, So anyway.
Okay. Okay, so I just want to go, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to jump in regarding the early childhood education and care, which was just referenced, that program. It's not a stipend, it is a grant program. So just in case any families with young children are listening, fiscal year 27, they will have to apply for that. It's not a guarantee, it is a grant program. Just making sure.
Okay. All right, if we can go back up to an earlier thing, which I didn't want to discuss, because I thought since our guests were here, we should start with that. But Alex, we've talked about the problem of our application form. And, we have these expandable boxes that then aren't really very expandable, and the font gets smaller and smaller and nobody can read it. So Alex talked to the IT people, I talked to the IT people, and we have another suggestion. So one suggestion was that we don't have boxes. And then Barb and I just talked this morning, and we had an idea. Could we have a form fillable front page that gives us the data that we need, just like who you are, where your email is, what your phone is, how much you're asking for, but then ask in the application form to please attach a document that answers the following questions. So we're not messing with squares and boxes, because none of us can read it with the expandable boxes, and that's possible, right?
The expandable boxes is not possible, but
Right.
I like your idea of just having a fillable form for the front, kind of basic information that should be able to fit in a designated area. And
Yes.
then we can specifically ask applicants to attach a document, and that includes, a Word document answering the following questions.
And short, we could either say, no more than 10,000 words, or something or other, to please keep it as short as
Yeah.
possible, as brief as possible.
One of the issues I have with our form, even when I download it, I can't scroll through the box.
And that's right, that's the problem.
Oh, okay. I thought you were just talking about.
Well, it's both. It doesn't expand, and then when you try to read it and print it, you can't. So we're having the same problem as that they are applying,
Okay, thank you.
but I think we've got to fix. Yes? And so we'll read it as a Word doc or as a PDF, like the toy people who are
Yeah,
coming in.
that's fine.
They solved the problem, but we won't have to try to squish it in boxes, right? Okay? So we just do that. We don't-
Susan?
Yes.
I think one of the things, I noticed, Richard, that with the toy application that we got, was the first time that all the words didn't fit in the box. And it looked like you could actually expand the box because there was a little plus down in the corner, but you couldn't scroll through it and you couldn't find the rest of the words. Whereas with all the other applications, even though the print was really, really tiny, everything was in that box. And what I found was that I could cut and paste the little tiny words that were in the box onto a Word document and then expand that to be able to read it. But you're right, at least with the last application that we got, couldn't even see all the words. Now, I sent an email to Susan saying I can't read all the words, and by then I had realized that they put another document behind the application so that all the words were there.
So in the next round, we'll put that in the instructions.
I'm sorry, Susan?
In the next round, we'll put that in the instructions, that it's a form fillable front page, and then please answer the
Right.
following questions.
Just doing away with the boxes will solve that problem.
Oh, okay, all right, even on the front page. Yeah, but let them know that it's form fillable. Usually you don't think it's form fillable if it doesn't have those boxes, but okay, we'll tell them it's form fillable, fill out page 1, and then the rest of it they'll see.
I think boxes on the form fillable page is fine.
Okay.
It's just won't
Not
have any
later
more
on.
boxes for the narratives.
I agree, okay?
Fine.
Okay. All right, so are we ready to review the toy story?
Happy to talk about that story. Cape Cod Toy Library, this is a first-time application for $5,000. The toy library is located at 1919 Main Street in West Barnstable. Actually, it's pretty easy to get to if you know where Old Exit 6 is, or I believe that's now 68, along the Mid-Cape Highway. It's just past the Four Seas Community College. The Toy Library is a nonprofit that was founded in 2017 by Deborah Wilsey to give children and their families a place to learn, explore, and grow. Actually, she's been ramping it up over the past almost 10 years. Initially, it was a pop-up play center at community events. And then it evolved in 2019 to its first home at First Lutheran Church in West Barnstable. And when they had that physical site, they were able to better house their toy collection and hosting family play days. They have moved into a new chapter just very recently, December 5th, 2025. They opened their new facility, which is 4,300 square feet. It was an existing building that had housed a crafts fabric type operation. Apparently, Deborah Wilsey bought it and has refurbished it to an
Privately?
That's what I was told there. I didn't confirm that with Deborah, but I did talk to her. This facility is utterly amazing. A remarkably high standard. It's light, it's airy, it's beautiful. And they have this remarkable toy collection there, about 2,000 toys, none of which have batteries, which is a really good thing. And then they have all this open space for children to play. And so this is what makes it unique. There are approximately 300 toy libraries in the United States, and there are 8 places on Cape Cod that say they have a toy library. Most of those are in libraries, which is great because they do have some toys, but they don't have the play space. And that's what you have with the toy library. The founder is a fascinating woman, Deborah Wilsey. She's had over 40 years, actually almost 50 years of experience in early childhood education. She was the co-founder of a similar toy library in Rochester, New York. Again, the same format that I've just described. The mission here is to foster healthy child development and learning through play. When you talk to Deborah, she talks about the Reggio Emilia approach, and which is not something I'd ever heard of, but I began looking into that. It's a very much child-centered, child autonomy, learning through playing. You can differentiate it a little bit with Montessori and Waldorf. Those are other pedagogies that are at play here, but the Reggio Emilia is the type of program that she is following. So it is an absolutely remarkable place. They are financially they're in the midst of kind of expanding this. Their revenue in 2024, they haven't filed a 990 for 2025 yet for obvious reasons. Reflects only about $111,000 in revenue. And that's almost all grants. And that's from the Cape Cod Foundation, Cape Cod Healthcare, Cape Cod 5, Cape Cod Cooperative Bank. But what they're changing is to move to a subscription model. So you can visit with your child and pay $12 to spend the day there. It's not $12 per child, it's $12. And so you have to stay with your child. I mean, it's not daycare. But they want to, well, they've created packages. For $600 a year, you have complete access as often as you want to their facilities, to the toys, and you can check the toys out for 2 weeks at a time. So my first thought in hearing $600 was, that sounds like kind of a lot for a family, especially a family that, a working family where two people are kind of struggling to get by. We talked a lot about how much it costs to live on Cape Cod. But what really struck me so powerfully was, if you can't afford that, they're going to work with you. If you can't afford the $12 a day and you can afford $4 a day, they'll say thank you, and you're in. If you can't afford anything, they'll say, come on in. So, I mean, it is just an absolutely wonderful problem. A wonderful program.
How often are they open?
They're open right now 12 hours a week. So I visited them yesterday. They were open from 9:30 to 12:30, and then they opened back up in the afternoon. So they're ramping up their staff. They're part-time people. The two I met were very impressive yesterday, and they are feeling their way forward here to make all this work with a view to having more hours. Yes.
Do they encourage or entertain groups that, I
Yes.
mean, I would think that kids get to go with toys, when they're with other kids, there's another dynamic that happens.
They absolutely do. And one of the other touching things, watching a couple of kids play, the director who was there said, actually, the two children met one another 45 minutes ago, and they're already best friends. Yes.
And is there supervision? Are these staff watching the children play, or, because they also talk about the behavioral health assessments, and they seem to have lots of things going on.
They do have lots of things going on. They are supervising that one step away, because you can't just leave your child there. So if they see a parent who's brought a child in, but the child is not playing with that parent or with other children, they'll step in and help make that happen. Another feature of this building was that they have a space for neurodivergent children where they can lower the sensory inputs, the lighting.
Really?
And a lot of thought, a lot of very sophisticated thought has gone into
How
this.
about the age range, what's their target age range?
They said 0 to 12. isn't it?
0 to 12.
0 to 12?
And,
0.
and I, well.
Do they really have
Well,
like
and the-
18-month-old children as well as a 10-year-old?
If you want to bring your infant in there and have that infant look around, I mean,
Crawl around? Suck on the
yes,
toys?
Yes, you can. I mean, I've got an 8-month-old granddaughter who loves looking at her sister playing and trying to interact. So, and I said, well, what happens if somebody over 12 comes? And that's fine too. I mean, they mentioned a 14-year-old that comes in from time to time with a younger sibling. So lots of things going on, a lot of flexibility, and in this play arena, a lot of supervision and I'm going to call it structure. I don't know whether Deb Wilsey will call it structure, but my sense was that children are being taken care of. It is an absolutely wonderful place. But here is an issue for us. It's 25 miles away from Orleans. And you saw in the application that they work with 2 families here in Orleans. One of the issues for me visiting these places is I'm kind of falling in love with all of them.
Yes, you're the program advocate here for all of them.
And I looked at this and I thought, wow, look at this distance and what exactly is a toy library? I mean, I had to see it to believe it. And so I wonder if there isn't something somehow we can do. They will come out and do other pop-up type programs. They have worked in the past with the Orleans Cultural Committee or Council, I'm not sure of the
Council, right,
council,
with Bonnie.
the terminology.
Mhm.
Perhaps we could provide money to do something like that. So, this is I'm going to describe as a well-established, proven concept, certainly in Rochester, and it's being copied in other places. And although it's been around in our community for 9 years now, it's in a very different phase of its development, especially with this building. I know when my grandchildren come in
You're going to send them
August,
over there, you're going to go.
I'm going to take them down there because I think the issue probably is prying these children away from the center.
The distance, to me, is an issue, because it's not a thing that a parent can just say, let's go over here now. That's a 35, 40-minute
Yeah.
ride, and each way, one way. And I think their documented interaction with Orleans residents is very minimal, right? It's like
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Now, one thing comes to mind is Orleans After School, which we fund, and they've got a nice population of people. Now, if they were to do if they were to connect with an outfit like that, they'd have a ready audience, and they could do the pop-up concept periodically there with them. So that's where I would feel comfortable providing some funding if
Well, but the after-school program is because the parents are working, and this one you need a parent. You need a parent
Well,
to take
that's
the
true.
kid to the program, right?
That's a good point. I'm sorry, you make an excellent point. So then the question would be, can they operate without a parent?
Oh,
Well, but
But
actually,
they
I
do
think this is an awesome suggestion because in the Orleans After School program, they maintain a very strict ratio of qualified supervisory personnel.
Right.
It's about 1 to 9 right now, and the state would actually even allow a higher ratio.
Well, it
But-
depends the age.
Yeah.
It varies by age of the kid.
So, Fran, I'm just going to make a guess here, but if I called Deb, who I spoke to twice yesterday, who's going nuts filling out grant applications right now, I think she'd probably be very interested in that. And my guess is the Orleans After School program might be very interested in that as well. So I think you've suggested a very appropriate connection. As we have observed, and I've certainly seen, all these 501c3s, they talk to one another. They are, the Toy Library is very much aware of Foster Closet, which is another small-scale program, but doing critical work. So, you know, with this committee's permission, I'd love to go back and say we're struggling a little bit with the Orleans connection. Would something like this or something similar, or maybe that would prompt other ideas?
You know, I would just piggyback on Fran's concerns about the distance and the limited services they provided to Orleans residents. And, you know, I think it would be wonderful if they could provide some type of consultation, education to the after-school program. An in-service on what is play, because I think a lot of the parents that have the kids in the after-school program don't get enough of an opportunity to play with their kids. They're beat after the end of the day. And,
Exactly.
you know, play is something that, it's a tool that children have. It's multifaceted in terms of their cognitive and emotional development. And, you know, for again, what Fran is referencing, that program, I think if they could go in there and just do a program in terms of, look, we have this center, but we also want you to know, you know, what play actually does for your child, how it's a tool, how it enhances their social, emotional, cognitive development.
I'm a little uncomfortable with this. I mean, I think we're reviewing applications,
Okay.
and I think we certainly could suggest that we have, before funding this, that we have a concern that it's not Orleans-focused enough. And could they think about some way that they could do a pop-up here and resubmit an application? I don't think it's our role to sort of suggest that they go in and start providing consultation to some other existing program. I mean, maybe they have all these names of places that they know, but I would leave it back to the organization to have them hear our feedback, which is, this sounds like a fantastic program, and we're very supportive of it. However, it doesn't seem Orleans-centric enough, and would they have a way of amending their application, thinking about coming back with a pop-up? They did do one with the Orleans Cultural
They did.
thing. Right, and so could they come back and
Yeah.
ask for funding for that?
And I think that was the connection with Bonnie Runyon.
Yes, oh, and I meant to say that Meth is away, I'm gonna be away for 3 weeks, they're in Mexico, lucky them.
Actually, Fran, Susan just responded in a similar way that I was going to respond to your suggestion. My strong guess would be that if we talked along the lines you described with Orleans After School program, they would say, actually, we do know a lot about play, and
Sure.
and encourage that. But, you know, I like the idea of just, well, going back to where you started, we're not seeing enough Orleans connection in here. If, you know, we love what you're doing, we'd like to hear more please get back to us with some ideas, because we want to help you out if we can.
Yeah, I would also, I feel that, I think the 5,000 number is high.
Yes.
And even if there is a connection with Orleans After School, because how many pop-ups can they do in a year? You know, a handful. So maybe if, in our if we have feedback to them, it would be, and you know, that our general reaction is along the lines of, how could we really see something tangible with regards to Orleans? And then we can decide on where we feel the best funding levels, at, just not to make any promises.
Right.
What do you think?
No, I would say they come back with an idea and a funding for that idea.
Right.
So if they're gonna
Yeah.
do 3 in the next year and it's $2,000, that makes sense, or for what? What are we
Right.
funding?
So can we leave this as a contingent
Yes.
situation for a
Yes.
while? I think
That's what I was gonna say. One of the advantages of not having a deadline is exactly this. So, and this is a little bit like what we did with the Navigators. We sort of
Right.
liked the idea, but didn't
Right.
quite get it. And so I think my recommendation would be to sort of put this on pause and not run through it in terms of funding right now. But if you're willing to take your grandchild to go back over and play, you know,
Absolutely.
give feedback to.
We'll be there,
Okay,
yes.
to give feedback from this committee that we really like the idea, would love to see some Orleans programming, and ask them to resubmit their application. We don't have to
Yeah.
fund it, we don't have to do anything with it, we can
Right.
just leave it at that with hopes.
Do we want to have a italicized set aside on our number to date?
Well, we're still under, so I would say since we don't know what that's
Right,
gonna
right.
be, I don't wanna sort of
Okay.
even
Fair
reserve
enough,
money
fair
for it
enough.
yet. But I think we can go forward, if they come back quickly, we can amend it.
Right,
And if
right.
not, it could even be, you know,
Okay.
well, I don't know, I guess I should ask this for Alex. Oh yeah, Barb, sorry, get your hand up.
I was wondering if, I mean, I think that their application as it stands right now is pretty wide open and pretty generic. I was wondering if, like with Pleasant Bay, since they're brand new to us, if we should invite them to come and talk to us. And Richard, you know, would preface it by saying, here are some of the concerns that we had or ideas that we had. So that we can ask them to come to the committee and be more specific about how they would serve more people in Orleans or what additional things. I mean, I was fascinated by just one sentence in their application that said that they deal with people with dementia and Alzheimer's. And so it appears that they may be talking about an elderly population as well. I don't know that, but it just seems like rather than have them write something and have us review something that they've written, to me, it would make more sense to have them come, understanding that they're coming to talk to us about our concerns, that they really don't have much of an outreach or a presence in Orleans.
I like this idea a lot. I think it's I'll describe it as a gracious way of going forward, to hear more from them about what might work. I'm anxious to meet this woman face to face. She was very engaging over the telephone, so I'm sure it's going to be an interesting chat.
Well, and I guess I would just suggest that we, rather than just ask them to come on this application, that we ask them to come with ideas for more Orleans focus, because that's what we would like to fund,
Okay.
rather than just hear about all these wonderful things.
Exactly.
That we say to them, if you please, or would you, because maybe they're not willing, I mean, who knows, maybe they say no, they're overwhelmed, or don't want to do anymore, or don't want to do anything in Orleans, we don't know the answer. So I think if we give them feedback, that we would consider a revised application that has a focus, more of a focus in Orleans. And, by the way, you're a new organization, and we'd love to meet with you, and invite them to our next meeting, or whenever they're ready to meet with us.
I'm very comfortable with that. I think
Comfortable?
these have all been
Comfortable?
Makes sense.
all been great ideas.
Okay.
I don't believe Deborah Wilsey lives full-time on the Cape. She has a home on
They can
Cape.
Zoom.
Yeah. Well, they can, yeah. And,
We've had lots of
uh,
clients come on Zoom,
She also has a home in Rochester, New York.
still.
Yeah.
Okay, so somebody maybe could come, and if not, everybody can Zoom. We've had programs
Yeah.
that never physically come.
Well, I will look forward to
Okay.
making this
Okay.
invitation.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I think Barb is
Very much so.
got a great idea.
Good idea, Barb.
Great idea.
Thank you. Okay, so it's almost 12:30, and I guess I want to get a little bit of an idea on how we want to start going through to make the recommendations for funding. And Barb had a wonderful suggestion, and that was that she would cut and paste the little sort of paragraphs that we wrote about the programs and the amount that they've asked for, and would give us a spreadsheet. She's our spreadsheet queen. And would kind of put all that together that would help us remember maybe about what those earlier ones were. I don't know that that's really necessary, it's a fabulous idea, but I don't know whether or not we think we need that, or if we're ready to kind of begin going down and saying, yes, this organization asked for this much money, and we're agreeing that this is how much we would like to give them, and then vote on it.
I think if Barb wants to do it and it's within her capacity to do so, wonderful. I mean, I like the data she provides, it's very, very helpful.
You still willing to do it, Barb? It was a wonderful suggestion.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I'll just, I'll pull it together in the next day or two and email it to all of you.
Okay. All right, so I'm wondering whether or not we want to stretch out our meeting, since that might take a little time. I don't know whether you think it would, but prepare for like a 2-hour meeting in our next meeting? Do you,
I think if we have the toy library coming, unless we limit how much time they spend, that they could be here for quite a long time, so.
yeah, I wasn't sure we would get them in the next 2 weeks. I mean, that's asking them to do a lot of work. So I was thinking we'd go through this and then,
Well, suppose they say they could.
well, if they could, then we can
We could
invite
just-
them. Then we probably won't get through
We could
this.
then pivot to the next meeting.
Yeah.
There's 22 names here, so I mean, it's a good bit to discuss.
It's what?
There's 22 names
Yeah.
on Barb's,
Although, my feeling is that the last time we saved a lot of space for it, we didn't need a lot of space because we were basically accepting the recommendations and
Yeah.
the lead person kind of made the recommendation and then said, yeah, I think this is reasonable,
Yeah.
and we all go, yeah.
Not to forget that the majority of these we've had experience with for a few
And
years.
the majority of
and so
these,
we're-
we've had experience, so it really is just a couple of
So
new
there,
ones.
my bet is there are a few things to discuss,
Yeah,
right? So,
yeah, the only outlier here is Homeless Prevention Council. I mean, we don't have anything in that
we don't have an
box.
application.
Yeah.
And Meth was gonna try to talk with them, but, I mean, at some point, you have to say,
No,
how many times do you call, right?
I absolutely agree.
I don't understand. Okay, so our next meeting is February 12th.
okay.
I guess I'm wondering whether or not we want to keep the room until 1, just in case.
Sure.
Sure,
Never hurts, I guess.
Can we plan to go from 11 to 1,
sure.
with the priority being review down the existing applications with the potential of the toy library if they come in with
Find
something
out,
that quickly? Okay. Right, then the next one is the 26th. And that should be our last one because we have to get it into, do you know what your budget deadline is for us, Alex? Your departmental budget?
For fiscal year '27,
Yeah,
I put you in so far, I mean, obviously town meeting, but I put you in with the same budget as fiscal year '26 in our
okay,
draft.
and you don't need our list, our specific list on any specific day.
We don't need that for the warrant, correct? So, you just have to worry about getting that to me.
Okay,
And
so,
as long as it comes in with the same, the proposed budget, which was the 200,000, right?
yes,
So
okay, and we're
you
still,
just have to get the list to me. It does not have to be in the warrant.
okay,
It's pretty flexible. So just to be clear, Alex, as long as you have a list with names and amounts beside it, and as long as that comes in under 200,000, you're good and you can
Correct.
proceed with the warrant. Thank you.
Yes, correct.
okay. All right,
Does that, I have a question. Does that mean that if we do come in under budget, as we are right now, that we still have the opportunity to be able to fund a new organization that comes in, or if HAC comes in, that we still would be able to spend that money? Or if we're $9,000 short, Alex, is that going to go back into the general fund after the town meeting?
If another organization comes in and you approve a grant and make an additional recommendation, we can certainly fund that grant.
so you'll take it as long as it's under 200,000? So we have
Correct,
that,
yes.
that's the flexibility of the rolling application?
Yeah, yes.
Because it's possible, well, I hope not, but it's possible the homeless folks will come in next week, who knows? And then we're gonna be, that's gonna be a problem in terms of funding, but.
Yeah,
we'll
but that's
decide.
one of the benefits of doing things this new way,
That's
is
right.
there is flexibility for you guys, and if somebody does come in a little later,
Right,
and there is money,
okay.
it's great.
Thank you. Okay, my last question before we adjourn. Barb gave us this thing for the 990s, and I couldn't get into it. I have an Apple, and I go in on Safari. Did anybody try this with an Apple? No, okay. I mean, I found it through AI, but the link didn't open for me. This is the tax exempt status to get the 990?
Yeah, I thought that was really, really helpful, but I kind of backed into it another way.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Well, Barb worked on this one, but my link says there's no such attachment, but I think that's because I'm going in through Safari and Apple doesn't like it. But, okay, so nobody else had that problem. Okay, anything else? Any other thing for new business?
No?
So we'll have a 2-hour meeting. Let us know, and I'll put it on
I
the
will.
agenda, if the toy people are gonna come this time. And again, they don't have to. If they wanna wait a month, we'll have another meeting.
Absolutely.
So we can be as
I'll
flexible
let you
as
know
they
right
are.
away.
Enjoy our communications and play. Anything else, anybody?
Thank you.
Hope you feel better, Barb.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor? We got a roll
Aye.
call. Name, Susan says yes.
Fran says yes.
Fran says yes.
Richard says yes.
Barb says yes.
Okay, we're unanimous. Thank you very much, everybody.